Yeah, so Papa, what we wanted to kind of do, we've kind of texted about it a little bit, but thought maybe, and if you want to tell us from even when you were younger, we'd be good with that too. But we thought maybe starting with graduating high school, which would then be deciding to play baseball, and kind of walk us through there through Korea.
Meeting Nanny and
Yeah, all those kind of stories. So I mean, I don't know how the easiest way is to do it, but maybe you could just kind of start and talk about baseball and how you chose to play it, and kind of what your couple years. I think did you play 1 or 2 years or 3?
I went to high school, Pell City High School, and they had a good baseball program. And I played football and then went on into playing baseball, and we had a good team. And we basically played the teams out of Birmingham. Like back then it was Phillips and Ramsey and all of them that had real good baseball programs. And we would go there and play them, and then they would come to Pell City and play us. And through that, you got a good bit of publicity, and there's a lot of scouts back in them days looking for baseball talent. And they would come and watch the ball games. And I had a chance, first chance I had was to sign with the Boston Red Sox. They were having a tryout down at Rickwood Field where the Barons played, and of course they had it at a certain time. Well, at that specific time I couldn't go because we were having finals in high school and I couldn't miss my finals, so I didn't get to go with the Boston. And then later there's a scout that was a friend of my coach, and he was always looking for talent, and the coach told him about me, and he came out and watched me play 3 or 4 games. Later he just gave me a chance to go to spring training with Cleveland, and that's what I done. I wound up signing with them, and what they do is they send several players to a certain area. Like I went to Marianna, Florida, was where our camp was, and I got to meet a lot of the big name baseball players like Hank Greenberg and Bob Feller, and all them that had played with Cleveland. They were down there, you know, as instructors. And went through spring training with them, and then as spring training winds up, then they start either releasing the ones that they don't think can make it, or they start sending them to different places.
So this is right out of high school? And then what year was that?
49.
49, okay. So these pictures are...
That's what these pictures are
minor league.
Here?
Yeah, that would be 49.
It says 49 and 50.
Yeah.
Is that what this one is
Yeah,
too?
them all.
So y'all were the boll weevils?
Yeah, they sent me... Cleveland had a working agreement with Enterprise, and they were in the Alabama State League. Had Dothan and Greenville and
So you played in
Geneva.
Enterprise for the first year?
I went there 2 years.
2 years, okay.
And then I was to move on into a higher classification.
So is it the same as now, like single A, double A, triple A, or was it totally set up different then?
They were different. There was D and C and B and A and double A and triple A and majors. There's a lot more. You had a lot tougher to go through then than you do now because of the amount of teams they had. See, there's only 8 teams in the American League, 8 teams in the National League.
But there were lots and lots of minor league teams though at the time.
Yeah,
right?
it had to be. And it was a lot tougher back then to make it than it is now because you had so many classifications you had to go through. And now a lot of them boys go right out of college right into the major leagues because you don't have all them minor league teams anymore. It's
all the local teams.
It's basically now A, AA, AAA, and majors. That's it.
So you played in Enterprise for 2 years.
Yeah.
And then, did you go anywhere after that?
No. No, that's when the Army.
So you were getting. So what was the Enterprise team? What level was it?
It was D.
It was D. Was A the one right below the pros? How did the order go? Was it A, B, C, D?
It went A. I mean, it went D. I'm going up to C, to B, to A, to AA, AAA, and then the majors.
Okay. So you had been called. You'd been called to C, hadn't you? Were you going to go play at C the next year?
Actually, A.
Oh, so you were going to jump from D all the way to A.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't realize there were so many different classifications.
Yeah.
Then.
Because I'd had a good year. I had hit 294 and drove in, I don't know, 80 and
I think
90.
you had some, I read some of
stats.
these that had some of these little newspaper cutouts that had some of those stats on.
Yeah.
Now, how many games did you play?
Yeah, here's
in a
several
year?
over here.
Seemed like we played about 130.
That's a lot of games. A lot of games.
Oh yeah, you played every day.
So did you, you played first base, right?
I went to spring training as a first baseman, but the first year I played second base.
Okay.
There was my manager, and he was a former Cleveland Indian player, and he got hit with a foul ball in the eye and lost his eye, and he never could play no more. That's just old boys I played with.
Now, I know
Was
this.
you there stretched up?
Yeah, yeah.
Now I know this is hard to predict, but like you were going from D to A, which was a big jump.
Oh yeah.
So it's hard to know how you would have done in A. But do you
Right.
feel like you had?
Well,
If you had the time, do you think you had a good shot at making the majors, or do you think
you
it's
never
hard
know.
to say? Depends on who's retiring or getting
It's
injured.
not always. You got to have ability, of course, but it's breaks. It's being at the right place at the right time.
Because if there's only 16 first basemen in the whole league, then one of them's got to leave for there to be an opening,
All right.
retire or get injured, or
So you never know.
Okay.
I mean, I'll never know.
yeah. Do you think you would have kept
Yeah,
at
he
it?
made the All-Star.
Yeah, there you are. First base, 284. You're right.
That's what I was hitting at.
The East team. I don't know when that was.
That was during the season.
That was your second year,
Yeah.
right? Because it would have been
Yeah.
first.
Yeah, I had a good year and made the All-Star team. To do that out of 8 teams is not bad.
Mm-mm. Now, when you were getting called up to A, was that in the north? I thought at some point you were going to be going to Milwaukee or Wisconsin or something. Am I wrong on that?
Yeah, I was Dayton, Ohio is
Okay.
where I would have gone. It was an A team of Cleveland
Okay.
at that time. But see, I never got to go because I was drafted into service.
So you got called up but never actually went.
I could have gone, yeah. But that took care of all of that, and I was wounded, and after, all of that, I just had lost a lot of weight, and really wasn't in playing shape no more, and just didn't ever.
So do you remember, like, what did you weigh when you played baseball? And then what did you weigh when you came back from Korea? Do you remember?
I probably didn't weigh 160
When you win?
when I went in.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably 175.
175 when you played baseball,
Yeah.
but you played about 160 when you came back? Is that what
Yeah.
you're saying? Okay.
I was in the hospital about a month, and just
Now, did your injuries from Korea affect you playing baseball? Did you try to play baseball when you came back, or just it was over?
not really. I had hurt there, and my eyes, and I don't know. You just lose it.
Yeah.
It's just not there. That drive and desire that it takes
It sucked
to
it out
play,
of
you hope to get it back, but sometimes you don't. And
So how old were you these 2 years you played? Were you 18 and 19?
yeah,
And then what ages were you in Korea? 19, 20?
I was, I guess 20 and 21.
So by the time you came back, you were almost 22, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Seeing you'd lost 2 years there,
Mm-hmm.
that you could have maybe made another step or two. And not only had you lost a couple of years, you had lost a couple of years of skills
Mm-hmm.
that affects you and your reflexes and things.
Well, the practice and experience that you would have got.
Yeah, you just 2 years you're not playing. And it's hard to pick up where you left off. You just can't do it. So that was pretty much took care of that part of it. But I enjoyed the 2 years I played. A lot of good experiences. Even after I went in service, they had the hot stove league and all. And there I am, sitting there with some major leaguers that were out there with me.
Yeah, you got.
So you had like
You're
service
labeled
team?
there, and then that guy's labeled Swish.
Yeah, I had Sawatsky was his name. He was a catcher for
So y'all call him
Chicago Cubs.
Oh, so you ended up playing with some pro players in like a service league?
Started out with them, but
That ends pretty quick.
in pretty quick because I was in basic training, and then after I got through there, they sent me on to Fort Sill, Oklahoma. And, there's just no stability. You may play one day, and the next day you may be in another camp somewhere. I thought by getting in with all of this, that's all I'd be doing, but it didn't work out that way. A lot of them boys in major leaguers, they never did have to go overseas or nothing. I mean, they give them preferential attention. I think old Carl went back to the Cubs after he got out of service. He was a nice guy, though. Caught for the Chicago Cubs. Called him Swish Sawisky.
Now, so tell us about then getting drafted, like how that worked.
Yeah, when did you get the call, or I guess you
How'd you
got
find
that?
out into the Army?
Army.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's just like you guys. Y'all had to register
Right.
at 18.
Turned 18.
Well, I did too. And then, of course, they classify you
Based on what? Like,
on your physical health and
Okay.
everything. If you was 4F, they wouldn't take you. But if you were 1A,
guaranteed.
you pretty much would go in.
So what? Do you remember what you graded?
Huh?
Do you remember what you got?
Oh, I was 1A.
1A.
And
Well, I guess you were
You're
in
a pro
really
baseball
good,
player,
Yeah,
so.
you were in good
oh,
shape.
I was in real good shape. And you just get a notice
Mm-hmm.
from the President of the United States. Greetings. And to
Congratulations.
report to certain place, and I wound up having to come to Gadsden. And I never knew that that's where I'd be the rest of my life.
So
Just through that experience.
So then you had to come to Gadsden to probably fill out paperwork and stuff. Is that how you ultimately then
Go
met
through
Granny?
a physical examination, and they determine whether you're fit for service and all.
And you were.
I was up here, I don't know, a day or two, and went through a complete physical. But there's guys from everywhere, like from Raglan and Fife and Crossville and Sardis, and they all had to.
So Gadsden was
Like a
kind of the
central
center.
depot.
It was. This was the place, and I remember then they sent all of us that was going in. We all had to take a bus over to Tala and catch a train, and then that's where I went into Camp Chaffee, Arkansas. Went on a train. Whole gang, all of us that was being drafted, a lot of them
And
was
this was
turned down and sent home.
1950.
I believe it was in January of '51 is when I went into service. Yeah. And I was in there till the last of October of '52.
So while you were in Gadsden, that was when you met Nanny and while you were here in those couple of days, or did you come back?
Yeah, we had to. I don't even remember where we stayed, but we ate at the same place every meal, and it was at Star Cafe downtown, and Nanny was cashier there, and I had to pay for the meals. I don't remember, there's maybe 60, 70, 80, 90 of us that was there, you know,
So
eating.
The government was paying for
They
it, but
paid
you were the
for it,
one that,
but they-
that actually just took care
They
of the
just
business.
designated somebody to give the check to, and
So out of all those guys, it was you.
I was chosen to do the paying. I don't know how I got that honor or dishonor, but that's how it worked out. And then I had to go up to her, you know, and she took the money, and we probably talked a little bit or something. I don't remember. Lord, that's been what?
60 years ago? 63,
64 years ago.
4 years ago?
Yeah. So that's all. That's kind of how all that come about.
So y'all talked a little bit, and then how did she, because y'all ended up riding each other, correct?
Yeah.
So is that the only time you ever saw each other in person until after the war? Did you see her again?
No, I come home before I went overseas.
And so y'all had you been talking while you were in boot camp and training? basic?
I'd been writing to her. Yeah.
So that day that you met her, she gave you her address?
How did you get her address? Did you ask for it?
No, she gave it to the guy. We had a sergeant that was in charge of all of us, you know, making sure we got, nobody didn't jump off the train. And he went with us all the way out there, and then of course he come back. And she gave him her address to give me.
So Granny made the first move.
And he then, later, way on somewhere between here and there, said that cashier wanted you to have her address and for you to drop her a line sometime. Well, that was in January, and I wound up finally writing her a letter in April.
So what made you write her a letter?
I don't know. You just
get bored?
You get lonesome. I wrote other girls. One old guy, we would exchange addresses, and I wrote a girl that lived in Virginia. Well, same time I was writing Nanny, cause she just wanted to get, you know, you just wanted to get mail. And same thing overseas. You write to different people, and boy, just to get a letter from home, man. Back then, it took 2 weeks to get a letter, cause they come by a boat.
Yeah.
And you get a letter, it's 2 weeks old.
So, Pawpaw, tell us, so we've gotten to where you've been drafted, and you went to Camp Chaffee, right in Arkansas. Was that basic training?
Went through 14 weeks
Wow. That's pretty
of infantry basic training.
So what was that like? Was it pretty physically demanding?
Very.
Was it more physical training or more technical training or more just obey what we tell you to do?
Physical. Because they were training us.
But you were in pretty good shape, right? So I would assume it was harder on some of the other guys.
To be an infantry, we were training to be an infantryman on the front lines. And boy, you went through a lot of tough training, speed marches, and you'd have to hike. Have to hike 20 miles at a time, and with full pack on, and you went through all kind of firearms training and all that. The whole.
Now I remember you told me you trained on an M1 Garand, right?
Yeah.
But then actually didn't ever use one in Korea, right?
No.
You used the carbine.
Yeah. They trained me to be just an infantryman, but I wound up being in a survey team, and we had to have light stuff that we could move with. And
so that carbine actually was a lot better than what you trained
oh
on
yeah,
for what you because it's
lighter,
and a little shorter,
and more suited for what we needed it for anyway.
So how did you end up on a survey team? As an engineer, right, ultimately?
Yeah.
What led to that? Like, did that happen in boot camp, or did that happen after you shipped out?
They picked them out of the group, and they went by your IQ. You go in, you take a test to determine your IQ, and they then category you, and they picked the ones, not that I was smart or anything, but the ones with the best IQ, they chose to send them out to survey school in Fort Sill, Oklahoma.
So that happened right after boot camp?
Yeah, I went from basic training on straight out to Fort Sill. and went through what was supposed to be 16 weeks in that survey school, but they needed us over there so bad they run us through in 8 weeks. In other words, they doubled up on us so they could get us on over there.
So you would have had close to well over a half year of training before you would have gone.
Yeah.
And if in Iowa. And so then where did you go from Fort Sill? Was it Fort Sill?
Yeah. I come back home, what they call furlough.
Mm-hmm.
And then I left then from home and then went to Seattle, Washington.
By train?
By train. Went from Birmingham to Seattle.
How long did that take?
3 days.
That's not that bad. I would have thought it'd been a lot worse.
And they flew me from Seattle.
So that's, I would assume, the first time you'd ever flown? Did you ever flown before that?
No, I never had flown before. And then we went from Seattle to Anchorage, Alaska, and sat down there. And that's the first jet I ever seen, was in Alaska, in Anchorage, which was about 1950. There wasn't any jets or anything. And then we went from there on to the Aleutian Islands and sat down and refueled. And then from there we went to Tokyo. And then they processed us again in Tokyo. And then from Tokyo I went to Busan, Korea. And then from Korea by an old train on up into Korea to my outfit. I was assigned to the 7th Infantry Division. And that's what I wound up being with.
Pulling out some of these that were left there from while you were over there.
So what was, when we look at some of the pictures, what was daily life like once you were in Korea? As an infantryman.
We had things that we had to do every day. We'd go out and survey some point that they wanted zeroed in on and that kind of stuff.
Were you ultimately making maps, or was it?
What actually we were doing was we would, the Japanese had occupied Korea for years and years, and they had checkpoints of where they had already done a lot of surveying, and that gave us a starting point and made it a lot easier for us to do. And our job was like there's a Chinese bunker over there, so and so. We could set up and zero in on that bunker and survey it and get the coordinates of where it was located, and then we could give that information back to the artillery, and they could plot it on their maps, the coordinates that we'd give them, and they could pinpoint it on their map, and then they could set their guns.
Ultimate shell it, I guess.
And they could drop one round right in on that thing.
So what y'all were doing was really important for the operations as a whole.
Oh yeah, we was out front, and a lot of the stuff, you know, that was going on even behind the lines, we were like a forward observer, more or less. The infantry always had a forward observer that went out and kind of spotted and done all that.
So you were kind of in between the main two lines, almost in no man's land a little bit?
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't realize how dangerous it was till later.
What was your rank?
I was a staff sergeant when
Staff sergeant? Is that when you
I
came out? I guess?
Yeah.
All right, so you told us a little bit about how you went out surveying. So how did your survey team work? Like how many of you were there that went
There's
out?
9 men.
Is this some of those guys here?
Yeah. Yeah, that's my guys there. Are part of it.
So out of those 9, where did you stand in rank by the time you came out?
What do you mean?
Well, like where were you in the 9 of those 9 guys that would go out in your crew? Did you lead the crew, or were you 3rd in command, or 5th in command, or did it not work like that?
As you gained experience, they had like a crew chief, you know, and you worked your way because some of them were rotating back home.
You split up.
You was getting new guys in, and then they'd fall in at the bottom, and they'd shove you up till when I left, I was over the crew.
Okay.
But then, of course, when I left, and the next guy in line, it just kind of automatic. And we did it all. We set up the instrument, and we did the surveying, and then we all had to do the math and everything. Everybody had to come out with the same answer before we would turn it in. And
Is that some of the area?
yeah,
What it looked
yeah,
like where you were
yeah,
surveying?
that
It was
was
a lot of mountains.
old North Korea.
Now, how would you spot the bunkers or snipers or whatever you were looking for?
Well, we had intelligence that pretty well knew all of that. They knew, you know, basically where they were at. And then you through those transits and all, they're so powerful. You could see them.
Mm-hmm.
We'd be on like one mountain over here, and they'd be in another one, and you could find them. You could see them.
So you would call in the coordinates, and would you stay there and watch until did you confirm the hit from the artillery?
Yeah, we could see it.
See it happen.
And I've seen them drop that napalm on them.
Mm-hmm.
Be on up there, you know, and they'd come in and drop that stuff.
Is that some of your survey
Yeah, that's a
equipment right
transit.
there?
Sure is. And then I had my sleeping bag there.
And you got to do a little hunting while you were over there. You talked about that.
Yeah, we killed some pheasant. Always snowed just about it
Just all the time.
on the ground, yeah.
Now,
Cold.
tell us about this little boy here that you met.
He's just a displaced little feller, had no family. His parents had been killed, and he just stayed around with us and did
So he just kind of hung around with you. What was his name?
Riwan Chul. We fed him and
Did y'all give him some stuff?
y'all
gave him some goggles and different stuff?
all that stuff that we'd give him. See, I was a corporal there. Got 2 stripes.
So did you feel like you were mainly fighting North Koreans, or were you more fighting Chinese, or was it a mix?
Both.
Could you tell them apart? Did they wear different uniforms, or for the most part you just knew it was enemy?
They wore these old quilted type
Okay.
old uniforms. And
Hard to tell the difference.
you could tell a Korean hardly from a Chinese. They all got that old look like he's got there.
Mm-hmm.
You told me one time that you had a pretty close call with a sniper shooting at you.
shot a hole in the crosscut saw on my shoulder. That's about as close as you can get.
Yeah, I'd say so.
So is it a saw? You were just holding a. Is it how long a saw was it?
It's a
One of those real long ones
regular
that you.
crosscut. Cause
So
we had to.
So two guys holding it, like you had it on the shoulder and
No,
someone else.
I
You had
had
the whole
it
thing.
just by myself on my shoulder, and the sniper shot. You know, they zeroed in on a certain point, and when you cross that point, they cut out.
They
on
just
you.
sat there looking at a point and waited till they saw something.
And when
so
we
you walked by.
we were happened to be in his sight. Thank goodness he was cross-eyed or something. He didn't make a good shot.
How? Do you have any idea how far it was from you?
You never did see him or anything.
No,
I guess you
no,
got
we
on
took-
out of there.
We took cover and got out of there in a hurry, cause you never knew where they were.
Was that something that was scary, or were you just? Was it always kind of so stressful that it didn't really phase you?
really-
You think about it later, or
Everything happens moving so fast. Even when we were getting shelled, you know, the rounds coming in on us.
you just didn't really have time to think
No,
about
you
being
don't.
scared?
No, you more or less trying to figure out the safest way to get through it, and you don't think about it so much. But I had a picture somewhere of the crosscut saw.
I didn't see it in any of these.
Well, it's somewhere around here.
It could be in this.
That was when I was in basic training there. That's just-
Everything in this
Yeah.
book is okay.
Yeah.
I didn't see it in any of these pictures.
But I had a picture, and we were pointing toward the old crosscut saw, and I mean it had a hole in it.
There you are with that looks like a machine gun there.
Yeah.
How often would you say you got shot at? Daily or when you're out?
We would get rounds in.
Now you're talking about artillery rounds or like small arms?
Artillery and mortar.
Mm-hmm.
We'd get them 2 or 3 times a week.
Now what about like actually getting small arms fired at you? Like sniper or just machine gun, or were you close enough to get that very often, or?
Yeah, we a lot of times would take small arms fire when we'd be up on a mountain somewhere surveying. They would spot us.
Well, shooting at you from pretty far away though,
Yeah,
right? I mean,
yeah. Well, that would be from one
ridge to the
ridge to another. They'd shoot at you, drop rounds in on you, and fire mortar. They always told me, you know, when a round comes over, you can hear it, and it goes. And they say as long as you can hear it, you're okay.
It's going over your head.
It's done gone over. It's them you didn't hear that you had to fear. But they'd make an old swishing sound when they'd come over.
Now, you've told me before about calling in rounds when it was cold and seeing the North Koreans like come out of their foxholes. And tell about that.
When they drop that napalm, you know, it was liquid fire is all it was. And they'd hit their old bunkers, you know, and after they'd pass over, you'd see them come out and warm their old food and rations and all on that fire from that napalm.
It was cold, right? And
Oh man,
freezing.
40 below zero, I've seen it over there. One of the winters that I was there has went down in record as being one of the coldest winters they ever had. I think the winter of 1950 was one of the coldest winters that they'd ever seen. See, you're close to Russia.
It's north. It's pretty far north.
And you start up in North Korea toward the Manchurian border up there, you getting awfully close to Russia, and those winters can be harsh. Oh, it's cold. Man, I used to tell him, old boy, I said, well, you can only get so cold. You can't get no colder. But we had a lot of frostbite.
So do you have, what are some things that stories or are there other things that stand out that just come to mind when you think about your time over there, or have you kind of covered those?
I don't. It's all just a
Yeah.
blur.
Kind of foggy.
Yeah.
Tell
There's
us.
a lot of different things happened at different times, but they just kind of run together after the years. And I never dwelled on them. I never thought about it. And I guess that's one reason I've never had no emotional problems from it. A lot of guys come back and they can't cope with it, but they relive it and all, and I didn't. I put it behind me. I just...
Did you have nightmares and stuff when you came back, or did you
I have had some of... I have woke up trying to get a buddy out of, move, you can't stay there. And I've woke up hollering all that kind of stuff.
So did you see a lot of injuries and death?
Seen a lot of Koreans dead.
North or south or both? Or civilians
Both.
or?
Civilians, soldiers. There's so many of them that they just kind of piled earth on them. And a lot of times you'd be going down, moving somewhere, and you'd see a foot with an old shoe on it sticking up out of the ground, and just stuff like that.
So was it a lot more Koreans dying than Americans? Or were a lot of
There's 55,000 Americans died in Korea, but I would say, yeah, it's probably 3 times more of the Koreans, civilians and all. And a lot of the Korean, they had what they call a ROK army. It was the Republic of Korea, ROK. And there was a lot of them killed. A lot of the Chinese killed, Lord of mercy. They killed zillions of them. Because they come down just in waves.
Just no, they weren't worried about killing a lot of them. Or they weren't, their leadership wasn't worried about a lot of them being killed.
Life means
Nothing.
nothing to them people. They'll give their life to get yours and never think nothing about it. It was a hard war. It was a hard war to fight. It was a hard people to fight and deal with because they were so cold, they got no Chinese. They don't care. They're just another figure over there. There's so many of them. Half of them starving to death. And they didn't have proper clothing either. There's a lot of them that froze to death over there.
Tell us about the day you got wounded. Y'all were walking.
Yeah, we was going up the hill to do some work. No, we'd already got on the hill and done our work and was coming down.
It was Heartbreak, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Heartbreak Hill?
Yeah. And I had been leading for part of the way, and then this was the old boy that tripped the wire.
So were y'all walking single file, spread out, or side by side?
Behind each other.
How far between each one of you?
Well, you kept a little space,
Like 5 yards?
Yeah, no more than that.
And there's 3 of you.
And we were coming down back down the mountain.
So what was his name?
Bunch, B-U-N-C-H.
He's the one that stepped on the...
Well, he was leading.
Right.
I mean, it wouldn't have mattered who.
Right.
But he was leading, and
And it was supposed to be cleared area, right?
Yeah,
So they just got missed by the
Missed one.
minesweepers?
they just didn't clear it. And they said our officer was, boy, said he had a fit when we were wounded because we were in an area that
It was supposed
was
to be
supposed
safe.
to have been mine-free. The engineers had supposed to got them, but they didn't. And it's a little trip wire. It's no bigger than the hair on your head. You can't see it because it's just down on the ground, and they raise it enough that when you
Your foot
walk and
catches
you kick it. And he set it off, and it was over. We were going down this way, and it was over here on the left. And I had a transit up on my
Which is what holds that
This
survey
deal right
equipment?
here.
Yeah.
You just carry
Yeah,
that on your
this-
shoulder.
this thing it holds. This screws off.
So that's a tripod basically
That's
down
yeah, and that's just the wooden legs on it. And I had it up on my shoulder, and that's really probably what saved me.
So
there.
what
It took a lot of
order?
the blast.
What order were you in? So Bunch was in front.
I was third.
So you were the farthest away from it as well?
Well, I don't know.
Okay, it was on the side.
It was on the side. It could have been closer to me.
So it was a bouncing Betty, right?
Yeah.
The kind that pops up and it explodes right in your face.
When he kicked the wire, that trips it, and it comes up out of the ground and gets about shoulder high, and then explodes. And that's what happened.
So then what do you remember? Did you even know he tripped it? I mean, I would assume it all happened so fast you probably just woke up after it, right?
Yeah, the concussion and all from it knocked me out. I don't know how long I was out, but one of the boys, old Fulgham,
Was he second in line?
he was second, and he wasn't hurt that bad, and he,
Got some more over here too.
yeah, that's him right there.
That's him there.
And he called back down to the rest of our guys. They were somewhere else, and told them that we'd been hit. And then somehow they got up there and got us, and a helicopter came and picked us up. And that's when they put you underneath the helicopter. They had a frame under there, and they strapped you on, and you was just flapping in the breeze.
Now, so what, I think you've told me before, what do you remember, because you kind of remember coming to, right, and trying to figure out what was going on, and something about you reached up to grab your forehead.
My nose was burning,
Mm-hmm.
and of course I didn't know the extent, and I raised up to feel my nose, and it was cut all the way through, and it just went over on the other side of my face. And they got us on that helicopter and flew us back to Taegu, and I from there on there's a lot I don't really remember too much really what happened, but I woke up in the hospital and they had patched me up. And I know for days afterwards I could take my fingernails and go down my face like that and just get little pieces
Hot sliver, or metal.
of metal, this little
Shrapnel.
shrapnel.
Now, so how long were you then in the hospital?
I was in there about a month, and they needed us so bad up there. Now Bunch, they sent him back to the States.
Now, is he the one you thought was dead for years and years
and
and
he
years?
thought I was dead. And he lost an eye. And
It's almost amazing you didn't lose an eye with
Well,
that much
that's
shrapnel in all
what
your
the
face.
doctor that fixed my eye, he said, "Boy, you're the luckiest person in the world to have been hit all around. See, I had still got that piece there."
Mm-hmm.
And then I've got scars all up in here. And see, this was all just cut and just my eyelid just dropped down. But it all stayed out of my eye and stayed around, you know, there's a piece there in my forehead, you can still. And then I've got little pieces that's still there all around it. He said, man, you are lucky.
So he had to stitch your eye back together, kind of?
Oh yeah, they did a good job on me.
So was most your injury in your face, or was it all down your arms?
No, I had this here, but it was because
your hand up.
I had my hand holding the tripod.
So the idea of the bouncing Betty is really just to maim you, isn't it? I mean,
yeah,
just send
it
out
can
as much
kill.
blood
Well,
as-
it'll kill you too. The force from concussion and all, but it's more or less just to mess you up more than it is to kill you on the spot.
It was a while before your parents knew. They sent a letter to them, and it didn't say a whole lot, did it? Just that you've been injured.
It said your son has been seriously wounded in Korea.
So for a long time, they had no idea.
Well,
what your
I
condition
got
was.
Mama a letter wrote, because I knew I had to, because she couldn't have handled it, and I knew that. And the letter beat the telegram.
You got there first.
And that's all that saved her. She knew I was, you know, not
Injured, but okay.
not that bad. Or other words, they wouldn't have known nothing except what the telegram. Your dad's still got
I think he's got it.
telegram.
I've seen it before.
So when you got well enough, they sent you back out.
Sent me back up to my same unit. Went back
Doing the same thing.
doing the same thing.
And how much longer were you there before?
That happened in November. I was there till about August of the next year.
So how did it work as far as how long you were in and how long you were forced to be on the front lines? Wasn't there like a grading system of...
They gave you points. Every month that you were on the front lines, you got 4 points. And you had to have 36 points to get out. But I didn't get out when I got my 36.
So that was a minimum, and they could keep you on if they wanted to.
How many did you get? Do you remember?
I don't remember.
Were you well over 36, or was it?
Yeah. Well, see, I'd have got that in 9 months.
And you were on the front lines almost the whole 2 years then.
Yeah.
Except for the month.
See, the 7th Infantry Division, their job was to reinforce all the other units. In other words, when the 1st Marine Division got in trouble up in what they call the Frozen Chosen, that was up toward China, our job was to go in and reinforce them and bail them out, and we went up and got 1st Marine Division. They were trapped, and the 7th Infantry Division went up and got them out. That was our job, was just wherever the dam broke, we went and scotched them up, and that was what their job was. And I just happened to be a survey team with the 7th Infantry Division.
I guess the only other thing is when you got back, I guess you started riding Nanny more often, or how long was it after you got back in? Me and
Nanny married pretty quick after I got out of service. I got out of service the 30th of October, and we married then the 24th of December.
So had you written all through the war? Did you know by the time you were coming back that you were going to marry her? Or
Yeah,
just that it was pretty serious and you had to
we'd done
kind of spend some time together?
Yeah, and then see, when the last couple of months that I was in service, I was down here at what's the name of that down Ozark? Down there in South Alabama. Good grief. Well, anyway, I was coming home every weekend from down there, and then I'd come up here and see Danny every weekend. So we married then on Christmas Eve. And then I worked with Shirley's dad. He built houses.
And when did you join the post office? How far after?
I went to the post office in 1955.
So you worked with her dad a couple of years and
Yeah.
then went to the post office?
Yeah. Then got a job. Well, I worked at the steel plant for about a year and left the steel plant and went to the post office. I worked with her dad about a couple of years. That's where I learned to paint and all. And then I went to the steel plant and then went to the post office. Stayed there till I retired.
Now you got awarded a Purple Heart and 2 Bronze Stars, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
When did they give those to you?
They gave it to me while I was in the hospital. Let me see in here if I ain't got it.
I've seen the Purple Heart a couple times.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to show you I had a bunch of ribbons. I was awarded the Korean Service Medal, the 2 Bronze Stars.
Do you know what the Bronze Star, like, is it for a specific thing?
It's
a
for
specific
valor.
act? Is it just in
Valor.
general, or is it a specific act? Like, is it tied to a specific act?
Yeah, it's just basically things that you accomplished. I don't know what this is. Pawpaw's military record. Let me see what this says.
That's the telegram, I guess?
That may be. I thought Mike had it. What does it say?
That looks like it's it. Secretary of the Army has asked me to express his deepest regret that your son, Private Davis Koyar, was seriously wounded in action in Korea, 5th of November, 51. Then it just says, that's it. The rest is just information how to get it to you. And it says Major General who sent it. Paid government fax on November 19th. So yeah, it was 2 weeks after that they sent it, the telegram.
Count Rooker, that's what I was trying to think of. It's on this.